Up next, we have a short drama written by 3 students in Salford, Sam, Jake and Dan. The piece is a heart-wrenching story about a young boy named George set in the depths of winter on Christmas morning. It was Christmas morning. The whole house was out of bed, except for George Pine, who slept like a log in a woodshed. His curtains were open and his windows ajar. The cold air flooded in, and Christmas wasn't far. Children played outside, having fun in the snow, while parents sat back and their joy did glow. And at the end of his bed, a bright red stocking sway, for Christmas is a time where problems go away. His alarm began to play, and asleep he no longer lay. George shot up, suddenly aware of the smell of cinnamon rolls that filled the air. Up he stood and put on his gown, as he fled downstairs at the speed of sound. And by the fire his parents did confide, as George picked up his presents, wanting to see what's inside. The fire crackling, the tree glistening, as George sat there quietly listening, as he shook his presents from right to left, trying to figure out what approach would be best. And at the table with breakfast lay, but this to George was the best part of Christmas Day. Life was perfect, free from depravity, but nothing could prepare him for the grasp of reality. George was awake by the sound of his alarm. It was Christmas Day, but there was no charm. As George stumbled out of bed, a single bulb flickered overhead. He longed for someone to care, but instead all he got was a life of despair. George's room was musty, the fittings old and rusty. The sound of his parents attacked his ears, almost bringing him down in tears. Still, he walked out the room and down the stairs, hoping someone was out there to answer his prayers. His parents sat there, they began to bicker. As George walked in, he could smell the liquor. The room was dark and his spirits were low. As he opened the fridge, even that light didn't glow. And disappointed, he closed the door, hoping that Christmas Day would be no more. So he turned to his parents and he started to say,
"Why are you arguing on Christmas Day?"
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you.
Oi, where are you going?
Breaking news.
Severe blizzard warning. Do not keep your hands over any.
What are you doing here? Are you messing with that bloody radio again? Last time you used the radio, you bleeding broke it. You think we can afford any of this? When are you going to get a job and start providing for yourself? You're going to have to grow up at some point, you useless git. We have told you time and time again to stop dreaming and start living the real world. When will you learn? When will you get your head out of your ass? You'll turn out like you.
George had had enough. His dad made life too tough. He ran out the door, grabbing his jacket just before. He wanted them to learn that he was never going to return. George didn't have a plan, he just closed his eyes and ran. His intentions were clear, but he was engulfed in fear. The forest was dark, there was nowhere to hide. Not even the sun could be his guide. So he turned around but just saw white. He was finally alone, but something wasn't right. He wanted to scream and shout in pain, but all that came out was a quiet strain. He stumbled, then tripped and fell to the floor, questioning those choices he had made before. And as he lay still, he thought no one was around, until he heard footsteps trudging in the ground.
George? Is that you?
Who are you? How do you know my name?
Give me your hand. You can't just lie in the snow.
I can do it myself. Who are you?
You probably don't remember me, but I'm your brother.
In a flash, George suddenly recalled that terrible day that the police had to be called.
No, what's your emergency?
How could he forget it? He was playing on the swing, but even though he tried, he couldn't have done a thing.
But George, it's okay. All you need to do is wake up.
No, don't go. There's still so much more I need to know.
Just wake up, George.
George woke up to his mother at his side, and for once in his life, there was no reason to hide. For it was Christmas morn and his spirits were high, while snow fell down from the cloud-filled sky. The smell of Christmas wafted through the air, and George tried his best not to care. But whilst George was happy and all was swell, no matter where he went, his past would always dwell.